Hello, everybody. Obnoxious Rhinoceros here to chat about how I color my cartoons and the inspiration behind it while I slurp some coffee on a Saturday morning. I like this recommendation. Kleptomatic. I think it was actually a typo for kleptomaniac, but kleptomatic immediately brought to mind these machines that we used to put quarters in at the pizza place when I was a kid. A friend of mine, his dad called them fat chance machines because they're all designed to make you fail. This is one of those cartoons where most of the work is done in the coloring. I only did really half the drawing with the pencil. The rest of it's meant to be brought to life in the coloring of it. I colored this little girl's hair blonde because I knew the background was going to be dark and I wanted it to stand out. I like to use the feathered brush to make blurry background images like it's a depth of field camera shot. Here, like if you're going to have lighting effects, you have to have shadows. So I lay down some black shadow so that I can erase the shadow to make the glow of the light. And then I fill in the color with transparency and then pop in the white in the middle of it that makes it really kick like it's a light. I love this idea of this little bear making fun of her. The name of this cartoon is Tactless Judge. And I thought about like a legal setting for a while, but then this idea of a sport like gymnastics where they actually do judge you, it's so subjective. So I thought about these bad scores, and then this one tactless judge who just says, "You suck!" Which is mean. I told my wife about this idea, and she thought it was so mean. But I had this picture of this little girl with her eyes closed who just isn't paying attention to the judges. And even if she did, I don't think she cares. She's proud of her performance, and she's not going to let the judges set her back. You just saw a glimpse of a painting by Kadir Nelson, and I gave you a little flash of it. Hopefully that's covered under fair use to show that this crowd effect that I'm putting on in the background is inspired by the way he handled crowds in his baseball scenes. And then I gotta make it blurry so it doesn't distract from the foreground. Yeah, this her pride in front of criticism, I think, is important to be inspired by in any creative effort, or anyone who puts themselves out there and tries, risks failure and risks ridicule and criticism from people who would judge. And I think you have to be immune to that if you're going to ever get better at anything. So I try to make my cartoons always be positive. They have a positive outlook. They're designed to make you feel good and not bad. And so even though that one's snarky, I think its resonating message is one of hope and victory and triumph. This one, there's not so much a joke here, but my wife got me a smoker for Father's Day, and before I could use it, I had to put it together. And I'm not particularly handy, so it was a fun puzzle to accomplish. And when I had all the pieces laid out, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to draw this. There's not a lot of colors in here, so the shadows are what really make it pop. You see, I changed the color of the floor there because it wasn't contrasting enough with all the gray from the smoker. That's funny, when you do the shadows, you got to pick a direction that the light's coming from. And based on that first piece I drew, the light would be coming from the top left. But I got confused as I started drawing, because that's sort of a concave shadow. So the shadow's backwards, and it would be on the convex piece at the top of the grill. And so then I put all the shadows on the wrong side and had to erase them and put them on the other side, but still in that top corner the shadows are wrong. But you know what? Otherwise it'd kind of be distracting. So sometimes you do things wrong in the cartoon because it looks right. If you put the screws to it, you'll know it's wrong, but it looks right. This one here too, I'll admit that although I usually use a prompt from my Instagram fans, I don't always. And sometimes I have a cartoon idea that I want to draw, and then I'll just make the words to fit the cartoon. And this is one of those where for the last 3 weeks I've been trying intermittent fasting, where I don't eat anything on Mondays and Thursdays. And this is a representation of how that makes me feel. It's not completely honest because, in fact, I actually feel pretty good on Mondays and Thursdays. I've been enjoying the fasting. It cleans out my system, makes me alert. I'm more productive at work on Mondays and Thursdays. And it gives me a whole new appreciation for the food I enjoy on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm a fan of the one frame comic format. I used to draw multiple frame stuff, but the sort of the exercise of the Obnoxious Rhinoceros cartoons are to try to take a complex concept and condense it down into one frame. So having 6 frames here is a little bit cheating. I'm not sure I love the yellow and green background now that I've done it, but I can't think of colors I'd do instead, so there it is. This one's called Polite Spartan. That was a recommendation on Instagram. I'll admit I didn't do very serious research on what a Spartan would wear. That outfit I stole from my son, who was watching Mr. Peabody and Sherman. And at one point he fights the Trojan War and he wears a leather armored tunic outfit like that grizzly Spartan there. This cartoon is a good example of where layers in Photoshop become real important to use. Because this floor I'm going to put on a background layer. And what I want it to do is I want it to get dark as it goes back beyond the doorway. And you'll see in a minute where I use a gradient bucket to do that. And then I paint all the other walls and things on top of it. The other concept I had for this Polite Spartan was to have a bunch of the Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae, all, instead of fighting the Persians, standing aside and saying, after you, after you. I might draw that one still and call it Polite Hoplite, for anyone who gets the reference. I like this. I gave this guy like a mid-century Samsonite luggage, which I think makes the cartoon funnier, that this ancient Greek's traveling in a Spartan hotel with orange suitcase. This one's called Postmodern Self-Defense. Postmodernism is a central tenet to my communications theory, and postmodernism is one of those weird things where we kind of know what it is when we see it, but we don't know how to define it. But what makes this postmodern is, one, the whole idea of that rubber your glue defense is completely made up, but somehow it ends arguments sometimes, so it is effective. It's true even though it's a fiction. We agree that it's true. And then the fact that they're actually rubber and glue makes this a very self-referential cartoon. And self-referential is a cornerstone to postmodern critical theory. I didn't know if anyone would think this was funny at all, but I actually got a great response on Instagram, so it just goes to show that I don't know anything about anything. And that's why I just do them. That's what I love about the prompts. Is sometimes I'll draw a cartoon that I wouldn't have thought to do otherwise, or maybe I certainly wouldn't have put it out there if it weren't for the prompt. But then sometimes people really respond to it.